welcome to Nacht Waffen Pilot with Penny Bradley, and today my guest is Julie Phelps. And give me a minute because I have to dig out her bio. We all know I have these moments. So, okay. This is written from her perspective. I am known by some as Julie Phelps, also Hughes. I am a veteran from the Royal Air Force, where I worked as an aircraft mechanic for propulsion aircraft engines. Then, on leaving the regular forces, I moved into space and military semiconductors, microchips, at Marconi. I then changed direction, obtaining a degree in psychology, and entered the field of mental health. Following deprogramming, I recall being trained as a Medusa 777 asset by the Illuminati, which combines different assets, including being used within the SSP, espionage as a pilot and mechanic on advanced craft, and also detached to Mars. After breaking free, I was then taken on by the Alliance SSP, whom I am still with. I am in communication with various different beings, both on and off world, and have been meditating and mediating and assisting. Welcome, Julie.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your show, Penny. It's lovely to see you finally, because I know I've been following you for a long time and you've just been groundbreaking in what you've been doing anyway. So it's just lovely to finally talk to you.
Well, the groundbreaking was more, I had a very different experience from everyone else. And it was like, I got tired of doing an intro to Penny. You get tired of talking about Langley and mind fracture all the time?
Yeah, you do. Yeah. You talk about the same thing all the time. Of me, it's always ongoing. So like what happened yesterday is not like today, tomorrow it'll be different. So for me, it's very much active.
Most of us who are still active, and I know you are, and so am I, and we have ongoing things, and you go on a show and you've got some host that's never listened to anything you've ever done. And they say, we'll start at the beginning. Well, the beginning for me was Langley and mind fracture. And by the first 5 to 10 minutes, they're like, ooh, their jaws dropped open, their eyes are glazed over, and they don't hear another thing I say the rest of the interview. So, I've got like 50 interviews like that out there.
You have a lot. Yeah, I know, Penny. Yeah. And I must admit, when you, I know in my perspective, when I go through it, people ask me about the monarch mind control, and then I go through some of the more graphic details, and I try not to do that as much now, but I will on occasion. So if you want me to, I will, because it brings that energy forward. So you know what I mean, you're connecting back with the energy. So if I go too close to it, then it can lower my frequency, because very much.
I haven't worried so much about my frequency as much as I've been working on reintegrating those altars. And with the altar comes the memory, and every altar was started by a trauma.
Right.
So I've been ignoring what it does to my frequency because I'm trying to become whole.
Which is what I've been working on, because and I've been very successful actually, but I haven't had as many altars as you. I only had 4 main altars, and bought like
4. Oh, yeah. I would be so happy if I only had 4. But I would be done by now.
But what I describe as the cube is the programs. So I have a huge amount of programs, but only 4 main altars, which I've been integrating. The only one I've not been very good at integrating is the beta one. which I don't need to go into that one because it's just difficult to readjust
The beta ones are just slaves, basically.
Yeah. So
they don't really have a will. They end up doing a lot of interesting things when you get the memories back. The memories are just like, wow, but you have no will of your own when you're in that version, and you end up doing a lot of things that are really horrific. And people listening don't understand that version of you has no free will. Well, I have free will, so therefore you do. Not if you're in these programs.
No. So that one's still working on. But like the Delta one and things like that, and the psychic one, my psychic abilities are starting to come back more and more. And because I managed to break free of the Illuminati SSP, which was connected as well, I do remember being on Mars with the Draco there in control.
Okay.
You
want to talk about that?
Yeah, I could do, yeah, because
I mean, in mind, they get to the mind fracture and they're gone, and I don't ever get to talk about things like Mars because they're stuck in Langley. So,
well, I think I've got
whatever it is that you would like to talk about that nobody else has asked you about, go there first.
Right. Okay. I think talk about because I was actually, like, I did botany and I was doing studies, the ecosystem on Mars when I was there. So I have a lot more details about the flora, fauna, and the animal life, and also the native animal life. And also, like on the base there, aspects about that I don't think people tend to talk about. Because I wasn't detached there for too long. I was only detached there for about a year, as I've worked out. It's about a year. Whereas a lot of
I was there for 25 years, but I was in an underground base, and then I was mostly in a plane, so I wasn't on the surface very much.
I have been a pilot in various, including higher dimensional craft. So I have been used as a pilot in various ways, as well as fixing and that's advanced craft here. That's not the higher dimensional. But with the Mars, I suppose I could talk about, like, in a way, the everyday life there to start, because what I remember is like, you'd have banter where I was, but I was in a group that were all white. They were all either blonde or Aryan types. And what I remember is, like, in the lower levels, there were other races, but they were really controlled. We weren't allowed to talk to them. If we talked to them, we'd get punished by the Draco, because you weren't allowed to help the slaves. They were classed as the lower slaves. And we were like the pilots, like the scientists and the botanists and things like that, or whatever, study the ecosystem, but also go out on different missions, things like that. They would do more mining and those sort of lower level things. But, that's what I wasn't in control. The Draco were in control. But when we'd have banter, but if the Draco came anywhere near, we'd all be silent. We'd all, like, be extremely careful, because if we stepped out in any way, then we would be severely punished. So we knew not to sort of mess around, at all when they were around.
Were you telepathic with them?
Well, telepathic only to a distance. So if they were out of a bit of a range, they didn't seem to be able to, do it quite so well with us. But if they were anywhere near us, yes. So you had to sort of kind of use your own senses. If they're getting close, then, like, shut up and be careful what you said completely.
I was trained to do their version of telepathy, and it was, talking to one of them was easier than talking to one of my German officers.
Well, I wonder if it's because, I mean, we all have different aspects spliced into us. I mean, I had a bit of
Yeah.
Drake spliced in, but not a huge amount. My daughter's got a lot more, but like mine's a tiny amount. So, and then I've got like, since I had the arachnid spliced in and had mantid spliced in, this is all
As far as I know, I was what we would call an Anunnaki hybrid natural, and they spliced Draco in, and that was what made me able to be a navigator out there, was the extra Draco part.
Right, yeah, because I
Um,
have that psychic ability to connect with I connect
Yeah.
now with a lot of the animals too around here and everything. So, and I'm doing
Yeah.
that more and more. I'm getting my abilities back. But going back,
Are you having control issues? Because my memories were activated and I realized I had abilities, it was like the stuff was seeping out of me. I didn't have any real control, and I was having a lot of weirdnesses happening that, were offended the neighbors.
well, I just not really. No, I
Good.
am integrating it fairly well actually. But again, I've only got so many altars, so I'm lucky like that. I'm fortunate.
Mhm.
So, and I really have worked very well. Like you've worked very hard. I've worked very hard, but I've got less to deal with. But with Mars, I remember, so I remember the banter. The food was, I can't remember too much about the food. It was just bland, basically. But I do remember at night we would put in pods, and they used to close over us so that it would alter our systems back because of the gravity on Mars and everything else. It was to rebalance us so that our biometrics and everything didn't go off kilter, even though they did injections with things as well.
That's actually a good thing.
Yeah. So
Do you have an idea of what year you were there? Earth time?
I think it was in the 1980s actually. That was when I was taken. So it may have been later than you, and I don't know.
Well, I left Mars in 1990, so there may
Right.
have been some overlap.
Yeah, so I don't, there might have been overlap with you actually. I'm not sure because, of course, time, they squeeze the time and things like that. So, and I also recall that they would tend to build bases in craters, the one that I was on, and then they'd have weapons all around the edge because when you lowered the force fields, the insectoids would try and attack sometimes, and they'd have the automatic weapons set to take out any insectoid to try it without actually having somebody standing there. We've got the automatic weapons to deal with that, and then they put the force field back up and everything else. So that's another aspect I remember. And I also, because I'm very sensitive and very much an empath, I remember Mars. I suppose it's like one of the movies covered it actually, but it had a melancholy, and there was a lot of ghosts on Mars, and I was so sensitive that I hated it. I wanted to come back to Earth because I felt this sadness, this overwhelming sadness on Mars because of its ecosystem hanging on, but not particularly wonderful. Just
it needs more. It needs more air and water.
And they may be able to fix it. It may, in time, it may recover yet. But I just feel, and also the residual of beings being killed there, so many, and so much life being destroyed. It has that memory in there, which is I found very disturbing to me because I could pick up on it. And I suppose people don't tend to cover that too much when they recall Mars, the actual feelings, because I did not like that.
I was not really talking about the feelings there because I was concentrating on the wildlife I remembered and the technologies, and why certain things were done and who we were allied with and who we were fighting in the wars, and trying really hard to keep it 3D rational, because there are so many out there that once they start talking about feelings, they go off into New Age.
Yeah.
And once you, I know they keep telling me it's spirituality, but it's religion. And once you start mixing religion into your testimony, you lose track of all of the 3D real objective stuff. And I was trying to keep it very 3D real objective. And that's probably the biggest difference between me and most of the others. There might be a handful of others that have kept it 3D real, men and women, but you know, they start into, well, I was this and I was that and I was the other. And yeah, we all have those understandings, right? But that was why I didn't. So, but yeah, for the record, guys, Mars has had civilizations
Definitely.
repeatedly destroyed in warfare, and there were major civilizations that died slowly and painfully when the air was gone. So there was a time in the not too distant past when Mars was like a smaller version of Earth. And when that changed, and I've heard all kinds of different stories from ETs, and I have deliberately not remote viewed it to find out what it was, because
I won't either.
it's more horror than I want to deal with.
I'm the same. I'll leave that one. But I mean, when I was studying the plant life and everything else, they had special coatings. Like I found like a sedge-like grass, but it had this waxy coating on it, a very tough waxy coating, and that stopped it being desiccated, because what I found was the surface of Mars is very, very dry. And that's what prevents us from just walking outside. Part of the air's thin, you could just about breathe it in certain areas, but your lungs would dry out and your skin would dry out, because it's so lacking in moisture that it actually instantly would dry our lungs, and we'd actually like and then keel over and die. So I do remember a mask where you could take the mask up, but you had this constant spray and also oxygen mix sort of thing that would allow you to take your visor up so you could breathe without it desiccating. You'd have the suit on, like I remember wearing a black suit with a very fine like exoskeleton. It was a very sort of insectoid like exoskeleton, so it wasn't a really big bulky one. It was quite fine but powerful, and of course the gravity being less there, it meant that you could do more. You know, you were stronger because, and you could go faster, you could move faster because of the gravity was not hindering you. And that, with the assistance of the suit, made you a lot faster and a lot stronger. And then, of course, weapons as well, that you always had to be armed when you went out because of the insectoids. But I mean, I recall.
Do you have any memory of the raptors?
No, for some reason I don't. Maybe that's been wiped from me. Okay. Because things do get wiped from you know, and I might not recall that yet. But I do remember the arachnids. Now, I'm friends with them. But on Mars, they're territorial. If you walk into their sector, you will be eaten. So, but they won't attack the base as long as you leave them alone. That's what I recall. So they were fine as long as you stayed out their way. You know, you just didn't mess with them. But the insectoids, I found they were the most dangerous because they were big, fast. There was a lot of them. And they had a neurotoxin too, that I recall. And so they were the extremely dangerous things, which was the main thing. But also I remember like some really big, like giant beetles that would fly too. A beetle sort of creature of some sort.
I half remember beetles. The CIA agent who uploaded my file to their archive, she described there being flies, and I don't remember them at all.
Well,
you might.
To me, they were more beetle-like, but whether you would describe them as a fly, it's sort of a hard coating to them, so I would call them more of a beetle type insect.
I remember the ground was almost crawling between the insect life and the smaller reptilians. It was like you had to be real careful where you stepped because there was something there.
Well, it depends where you were. There are areas that wasn't much on the surface, but there were areas that were teeming. And I remember smaller creatures that were like spindles, which were like very fast, and they were like, a lot of them were like camouflaged as well to look like the Earth's surface, or obviously the area around where they were. And the hoppers were like jumping jacks. They would randomly jump, so that would try to avoid predators, and then they'd run really fast.
Okay.
And I remember like centipedes sort of.
Oh God, yes.
Big. They were big.
Yeah, it's like everything there is bigger.
And I think it's like on Earth, because Earth going back in the century, millennia, we find bigger bones, bigger creatures and everything. It's because that gravitation was not as much as it is now. So it's like, because of that difference in gravitation, everything was bigger. The trees were bigger, the beings were bigger, humans were bigger, because they have found human skeletons. Everything was bigger than here. So that was another aspect as well that I realised. So it's just my dog coming in. So getting back to Mars, so as I said, I remember the centipedes, and also there was other creatures too that I remember. There was these limpet rocks, and they had like teeth, and they would process the minerals on the surface, but they wouldn't move very much. They'd be like, but you wouldn't put them on your skin or anything, because they could you wouldn't get them off.
Yeah.
On there. But they weren't dangerous as long as you didn't, you weren't stupid. So there was things like that.
Yeah, we know how people can be stupid.
Exactly. It happens in every force and things. Don't do that. So they do it. But
of course, that seems to be part of humans. Tell us, no, we're going to do it just to prove we can. But yeah.
Some of them, you might lose a hand if you do that. So that's not a good idea.
I was on Mars in 1964, right after the war started, and they would send us on expeditions during Shula, our training period. So I would be a teenager, and they would send us out in basically spacesuits, because they didn't have smart suits yet. And we would sometimes be left out to work on our survival skills. And I remember we were told that if we got hungry, we could kill a spider. And we finally figured out you didn't have to kill them. All you had to do was cut off one of their legs and cook it with the ray guns. And it was basically like eating lobster.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Iranians, but yeah, it's. I know even my late husband, he had spiders down in South America, and he said they tasted really nice until he found out what they were.
Yeah.
And they didn't tell him at first, so it was like, what?
Well, it took me a while to figure out that the spiders are actually telepathic, and that the mantids, the insectoids, were using them like in a telepathic relationship, like some farmers will use like a sheepdog that they've trained to answer to hand signals or whistles. And so the human will use a dog to herd cattle, that these insectoids on Mars are using the spiders as lesser being pet partners.
Well,
That
the insectoids I recall, they were the ones who were just tended to breed, and the arachnids were killing the insectoids. So maybe there were different types in different sectors.
that could be.
It could be, because I remember it the other way around, actually.
Because I would be sent to capture an insectoid, because they were a hive mind. If you captured one, it was like capturing the queen, and you could talk to them.
Yeah.
And it would duck into a cave and call the spider to come get me. And I would end up in trouble every time. And the good thing about their venom is that you don't feel it very long. It's that deadly. So I would wake up in the German regen tanks. You remember those, right?
Yeah, I remember being grabbed by one of the insectoids, and it still get a kind of twinge around my middle, even though they healed me. It still get a twinge,
Yeah.
because it got me around my center. Yeah, and I went into a tank to regen, but I don't know. I still get trouble there. So I don't. Maybe they didn't do a very good job.
I think cell memory has a lot to do with that.
That's it, actually. Maybe it's cell trauma memory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of some sort. That's a good point. Yeah, so I do remember trees on Mars as well, and again, those were.
So do I. And there are photos online that were taken by some of the orbiters that show they look like trees from the top. We're on radio, or I would show them. So.
Because that aspect is, I remember the trunks being very smooth, again, protection from the atmosphere and the dryness. Yeah. And also the leaves are waxy, but they were like feather-like, and at night they would close up. So that
it was so cold at night.
Yeah, so they protected themselves by closing. Like we have some plants on Earth that close up, and they'd have extremely deep tap roots. So they would get down to the moisture levels. And also the seed pods were like a spiral, so that they were big enough spiral so that when they blew in the wind, they could get to a point and then have enough energy within the seed pod to spiral really deep down into the ground to get just about enough to tap into where they need to tap into, and then of course grow and sprout. And then a lot of the other plants I remember there had very deep rhizomes, which means it's like a huge structure underground, but not much showing above. So there'd be like a short plant above, but below, that's where all your structure was, because, because of the problems with the moisture and everything above ground, because I don't ever remember it raining on Mars ever. Never.
I remember there being light clouds and kind of a mist would fall, but it never really hit the ground. Yeah. It evaporates so quickly. Except when I was stationed at the North Pole, it would hit and freeze.
Yeah, I never went to the North Pole, so I never went to the pole, so I didn't experience that aspect. But yeah, Mars was. I volunteered to do the studies of the ecosystem because I wanted to do stuff. I just couldn't stand anything to keep myself busy and maybe out and about and away from certain situations. And certain beings.
Yeah, that's something that people haven't really addressed, is that women in these black ops are often considered to be there simply for the sexual pleasure of the males. And that's why so many of us have a sex slave altar.
Mm.
Everybody that's real, that I've counseled, that comes from these programs, has a sex slave altar.
Yeah.
It seems to be part of our initial mind fracture process. And you get off world and they think the normal laws of morality don't apply to them. And so I know when I've served on ships, especially, I will pick one officer, and if he's willing, I'll be his mistress, just to be protected from everyone else.
Yeah, I kind of blocked that aspect there, but I don't remember too much of that. But I think I feel, well, I can't recall totally, but I think I did the same sort of thing basically.
Yeah.
Just so are you more protected, you know.
I was Schwarzschild, and there were aspects of that were, I'll be blunt, it was sex magic. So there were aspects of that I had no control over it. And, you know, Daryl's cracking up because I've played this really laid back, don't want to touch that. But yeah, it's part of Schwarzschild Gesellschaft. And so you had mentioned that you were on Mars because you were in the Illuminati SSP, and the version of the SSP I was in on Mars, I was in a group that could be identified as Illuminati. So
it was very Germanic. It was very Aryan and that orientated, but as I said, the overall control was the Draco. So, you know,
where I was, we were being left alone. The Draco would come in. The Draco commander would come in at our morning meeting when we were given our assignments. But my German commander was not equipped. He was a pure human. He did not have any Draco DNA, so he could not be in the room with the guy. So we had to take our morning report from the Draco and then relay the important parts to our boss.
That's actually because I know, yeah, because you're saying you've got more splice into you, so you can cope with Draco more.
Now, oh yeah, I can sit there with them all day and have it full intimacy telepathy the whole time and not have any problem with it.
You see, when I was abducted to a place near Dulcie, and I was out of the mind control at that point, and there was others in the lineup that were then processed as food.
Dulcie's really bad.
And that was only a few years ago, and that was with my late husband too, so we both recall it. I really have this panicky feeling around Draco. I really...
Well, most humans, if you spend more than a half an hour, you're going to be fried because they have such high energy fields around their own body. And they just generate that kind of electricity in themselves. And humans are not hardwired for it, and it will literally burn out your circuitry.
I think I'm a little bit harder than a lot because of the other splicings in. I have got a bit of Draco, but I don't think I'm as hard as, I've not got as much as you. So I don't like it. You really, they.
Well,
When
I had to come to terms with it.
Mm, mm,
When I first realized that was what had happened to me, it was in 2015, and I had regression hypnosis, and I had sensed something reptilian about me, but didn't know what it was. And so that was one of the questions I brought up in regression hypnosis was, why do I feel this? What species is it? Why was it done? And my subconscious knew. So I did get those answers, that it was done to me by military laboratories that were American. So at that time, that was OSS. And OSS did not shut down when the CIA was formed. They just went dark. So they're still there. They're still operating. They're just operating in secret. And I was one of their projects. So technically, since they have a patent on me, they don't even consider me a human.
But this is the point with me being gene spliced into me, and then them taking the DNA to create hybrids, which I have been in communication with a part arachnid and human genes from me, and other splicing, and I did accept him as my son, which was hard because I'm arachnophobic, or was.
Yeah, so, I'm arachnophobic because I've been bit so many times on Mars.
Well, maybe that was why I was originally, but because of this, and because I accepted this child as my own, although he's grown up now more, other more benevolent arachnids have been in communication with me. And there are benevolent arachnids. There's so many different beings. Are just they're all different. Just like it's like saying a Draco is exactly the same as a human because it's got 2 legs and 2 arms, 2 eyes. Although not all of them.
All of these species have good and bad individuals until you start getting into the hive mind ones, and then they have no individuals at all. They're just bodies.
Yes, I agree with about the hive mind, definitely. I remember I had regression, and through the regression, I was I'd already recalled some of this, that I like go to a planet, tend to go to a planet in between lives in the Kepler region, but it's a higher dimensional planet. And there's a council there that is all different beings, so they're very high dimensional, but you can choose to assist other planets with development, and then you can either shapeshift down on the planet, or you can then be kind of born into that race and try and help it a little bit. And I remember, and I got regressed, and this was a surprise to me, that I was on a very dark planet, and in fact it was underground a lot, so you didn't use sight, it was more feelers. And I was an ant-like creature, and it was a hive mind, and it was about
that would be a very different experience. Yes.
So that's like, okay.
Yeah, I've had the telepathy with the ant-like creatures on Mars, and it's a very different kind of a mind. And I cannot imagine their individual lives are completely structured, and they have no choices, and it's if that kind of society structure were applied to Earth, it would be unbearable.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's what they're trying to do, partly, isn't it?
It does look that way, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, but yeah, hopefully we will succeed. Well, I think we will, but how many of us?
Well, I've been seeing, yeah. Okay, this needs some back information. In between lives, I'm a Norn. Those are the so through fates. So I'm not even on a planet. I'm in a whole nother dimension, and I'm not sure where it is. So I'm not going to give you numbers, but I'm a Norn in between incarnations. And so as that kind of a being, I can flip between this reality and being above all of it, looking down on what's going to happen to the timeline. Now, I don't see individuals, I see streams. So I'm seeing one stream is going to be AI, and it will be destroyed by the Guardians because it's a threat to their safety.
Yeah.
There's another stream that is going to be basically China for everybody, and they will embrace the AI, and they will be destroyed because it's a threat to the galaxy. That the only, because there were 3 branches, the third branch is where the common people basically rise up and say, oh, hell no. That's how they say it in the South. Oh, hell no. So, yeah. Can we tell I have Southern roots? Okay. But that's the only one that's going to still be here in 500 years.
Yeah.
And it's going to be bloody at the beginning because the people that we have to rebel against are so well armed.
They are, with the direct
and
all the rest. And I'm already starting to, well, can't say too much about that at the moment.
Yeah, I try really hard to walk that line of saying what has to be done without saying enough to get myself arrested or to be instigating people into choices that they're not going to want to live with, because I'm required to honor their free will.
Yeah, yeah.
There are folks out there who are not, and I look at them in absolute shock. How can you want free will for yourself and not give it to others? But at the same time, as a Norn, I'm looking at this timeline split, and the split will be by 2025. So choose your timeline wisely, because the split is in progress.
It is. And I saw that, like you're saying, in a different way of saying it, that the Palladians told me that there would be a huge solar flare to the point where it would fry all nano. So it would have whatever energy added, or I don't know, but it would be this flash that would surround the Earth and would kill the nano because it's a danger to.
Well, the solar flash is something that happens every 12 to 13,000 years. And it's when the solar system changes where the galaxy has an equator.
Yeah.
And we have been in the northern hemisphere, and we moved into the southern hemisphere in the last, since 2000. So it takes a little while. It's not like it's instantaneously. So since 2000, we have switched to the southern hemisphere of the galaxy, and it has more dust in the space. And this dust interacts with the sun in a way that it creates a flash of kind of like the sun cleaning the dirt off. And every planet it hits, the side that it hits is destroyed. So, and the strength of what hits has to do with how close it is to the sun. So that's part of why Mercury has no life at all, is because it's too close to the sun. And when the flash hits, it just burns up. Uh, Venus is already hot, so it doesn't make a whole lot of difference there. And we get to Earth, and you will find through our history somewhere on the planet every 12 to 13,000 years when we've switched where we are relative to the galactic equator, you'll find these glass beads in the soil that contain a lot of iridium. And that's where the flash has hit the dirt and turned the quartz in it into sand. And the iridium is from the sun. And it destroys everything it hits because you're talking plasma.
But I've been told that it will destroy the nano, but not everything. But that's because it's the certain other ETs are getting involved with this. But that's what I've been told. So,
well, my understanding is that the AI has been, okay, the black goo AI has been mined and is being stored deep enough underground to survive that. So it's going to be a major big deal to get rid of it all. The planet's not going to survive it. Whatever it takes, and then they will restock us. And some of the ETs are planning to come and rescue some of us, but they don't have enough ships to do 7 billion people.
Well, I do remember being on a Palladian ship with others, looking down at the Earth with a flash that goes round. But after they flash, they then start regenerating it.
Mm-hmm.
So
but it still takes time.
Yeah. So,
and basically, Earth is hell until it does regenerate. That's the picture that I keep being shown. And there are other things that I've been shown: a pole flip and a tsunami and earthquakes and a set of volcanoes going off in a specific order, and that it changes the entire face of the planet. So my best advice is live above 400 meters, at least, 300 kilometers from a coastline. Make sure that you are able to live off grid and underground if possible. Make sure you are not downwind from a nuclear power plant or a biological weapons storage facility, because when the electricity goes out, both of them are going to blow.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult, that, because obviously in Britain we're not that big. But
yeah. I'm in California, and right where I live is safe, but my rent is now higher than my Social Security check. And if I were not in a relationship, I would be homeless. And so I'm considering moving out of state. And given my criteria, I have a limited zone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But for me, I've got communication, and hopefully I'll be able to start opening portals. And I've had this from several sources, and I've had this told me, and I can open them to a limited amount. This is not with electronic assistance. This is really, but not just psychic. This is physical portals, like a bit like how Sasquatch move in and out. And I've communicated with them, and friends are friends with them, and hopefully they will teach me more about how to do it, because it's all right if you open something like that. One, you got to do it right, and two, you've got to know where you are, or else and you got to know how to open it to get back.
You gotta be careful what you open it to.
Exactly. It terrifies me.
You have to be certain that you want interconnection with that place. And if you go there and find out you don't, you need to know how to get back and close it.
Exactly.
There are too many of those portals all over the planet that have been left open.
Yeah, I'm talking better portals, not the ones to the bad side. And yes, I would need assistance, because I'm most certainly, because I was used on experiments when young with the military, if we're going through portals, and I remember going through some very dark ones.
So the RAF is doing portal work. The RAF is doing portal work.
No, I was used through the Illuminati for that. You know, like there's a lot of screen memories, but this was when I was young. This was before I was in the forces, because it was 6 years old when they started the Monarch. And then I remember the Rothschilds, they bought me at 9, and I've still got like a gold, almost looks like a St. Christopher, but it's got a wolf's head and various aspects to it, a date. That was when I was...
my necklace is not ownership, it's the family I'm a member of. So,
but hence why I think they were trying to send me a friend who go, we want you back. You're one of us, tough.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I did my family tree on Ancestry, and when I made certain connections, and I was stupid, I made it, it was totally public, everybody could see it. And when I made certain connections, I started getting contacted. And yeah, my family tree is now private, but it's like the there's an old Southern statement about it, you know, it's fine to close the barn door, but the horse is already out.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain lineages I can talk about. I've got a lineage though that I can't talk about, but one of them.
I've got lineage I don't dare talk about, but I will say that about 2 weeks ago, I was contacted by someone that had DNA proof, and it means that my grandmother was adopted.
Right. Yeah.
So
they all our families are like, yeah.
Yeah, you can't go by what the official tree is, because they take kids and place them elsewhere.
Well, yeah, I've got talking to Sophia. She's come forward, and very much the same as me, being through trauma-based mind control and everything. But she was brought up on a baby farm in South Africa, and she was white. When Miles told me, oh, she's South African, I thought, I actually thought she might be black, but no, she was white, and that was kind of surprising to me. But,
the people that I know from South Africa are all white.
Oh.
So I think it's something about being on the internet is something that not everyone has access to yet.
Ah, right, okay. Yeah, because we've got such a hidden, I'm sure we've got such a hidden story, a wealth of knowledge from people who are black, who are Africans and everything else. I know the Zulus and all the rest, the Zulus have connections with the reptilians. And I remember David Icke talking to one of the shamans, the main shamans, and he had that necklace with all the craft UFO, and they knew the history of landing and things. So
well, they're not stupid. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They're people. They're not stupid. They're just, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I deal with so much insanity from people. The comments that I get in Facebook. It's like, if you don't look like me, you're stupid. And I'm like, no.
Exactly. I mean, I've learned so much from, like, my late husband was part Lakota. So I've learned so much from so many of my Native American friends.
Well, my partner, the man I live with, is half Iroquois.
Yeah.
And he is a shaman. And, you know, it's, my father had Indian blood. As far as we can track it, it appears to be Cherokee, but it's so far back that it doesn't count, you know, because they have this idea of blood quantum. And so it's past the blood quantum. But my father had dark skin, almost as dark as my beloved Daryl here. So I'm used to the people in my world being multicolored.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, to me, that's normal. And I'm used to people having authority and being considered intelligent and worth listening to, regardless of their skin color. And so I come out into the real world. And the disconnect is like, the disconnect is like, what?
Yeah.
It does come out of my mouth. What the fuck is wrong with you people?
That's soul resonance. That's most important. The color just disappears anyway because I mean, but it's that soul resonance. So I can instantly. I mean, I've even sometimes walked down the street, looked, and we psychically connect. Doesn't matter who it is, and just nod, carry on, and like you've connected.
You know,
it happens.
And I listen to some of these other people, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? Yeah,
you don't have to say anything either. You just know. You don't necessarily all the time. I mean, sometimes you'll chat, but sometimes you don't need to. You just psychically talk, and then like, okay, lovely meeting you.
Oh yeah, I've had there were about 20 kids. Oh, I'm in my 60s, so they were kids to me, but they were in their 20s and 30s, and there were about 20 of them, and I knew they were soul family. And 2 of them are dead now, and 2 of the others have left Facebook, and the rest of them, I still keep an eye on them. And, so, but yeah, soul family is a real thing, and you know it when you feel it, and you can't explain it to somebody that has never felt it. You just know. And that's kind of how I know who's real and who isn't in the SSP. Because the real ones have altars. The real ones, you can feel their trauma. The real ones, no matter how much work they do, you feel a panic about them. And the fakes don't have that. And there are a lot of people out there who think that we're just playing a game, and they're out there making shit up. And I do my best to filter those people out. I don't interview them if I can help it.
Yeah, I agree. There's always some that are like that. But I'm the same. It's about who I resonate with, as in I can sense, I realize for you, Penny, I mean, I've done psychology. I know the psychological aspect, and it's like in the so-called mainstream psychiatrists, which I can't stand because they're so arrogant and they're so stupid, actually.
I had to get
stupid. Most of
I had to get a new doctor in April, and she is passing me off to someone else now because she could not deal with my PTSD. The second visit, she went into a screaming fit. Oh my God, you have the worst PTSD I have ever encountered. And I'm like, you're just figuring that out? They didn't have that in my chart to pass to you? And I'm sitting there like, yeah, okay, this one is not going to work out. So it was actually nice she found somebody to pass me off to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, some of them are, I'd say there's one out of maybe 100 that might be anywhere decent, if you're lucky.
I have a podiatrist because I'm diabetic. In California, they send you to get your feet checked because diabetics have a lot of foot problems. And I've been going to this guy since I was diagnosed, and I told him what the other woman said, and he says, I look forward to your visits. You're interesting.
Yeah. Well, it takes a certain sort of person, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, sometimes I think, yeah, because I have come forward on videos. I've gone into detail on, but I've only done it once or something like that. And I'm like, don't particularly want to do it again because it's hard on me, but also it's like, part of me thinks, well, should I ever tell this? You know, because it's so bad. But I'm thinking, well, if people don't know, then.
Well, my whole thing for why I came forward was because I understood that all of us were kidnapped as little kids by our own governments. And this is illegal, immoral, and there's nothing we do out there that can't be done by consenting adults. And so that's what I've been talking about, is this shit needs to stop, and the people responsible need to be brought to justice, or at least taken out of power.
Well, it's like the same reason I came forward. And after the James Rink interview, because I've been targeted when I came forward a little bit, I thought, oh God, am I going to survive after this one? Fully expecting to be taken out, and I wasn't. I was like, oh, okay.
I've been shot with energy weapons 10 times. And I've had 5 people I cared about murdered.
Oh, a lot.
And all of the murders were after I'd had warnings. We don't want you to talk about this anymore. And some of the warnings were from the CIA, and others were from an Illuminati group. And you've worked with them, you know that there are factions in them, and this particular faction was really angry that I had been talking about their religious beliefs. And I had done it in a comparative religion way. I was comparing them to Judaism pre-Abraham. So, you know, it was old God religions compared to the one we know of, which was the Abrahamic faith, and comparing their old God religion to that one. And in very clinical, non-emotional terms. And they got really pissed and killed 3 people because I did that.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that
and
you, me, and everybody who comes forward, we all know, and they do it anyway. So even if you don't come forward, quite often they do it to keep you in line for different reasons. So
yeah, there's always going to be an excuse for them doing it, which is why I'm still public.
Exactly.
Well, like that and this wonderful retired CIA lady came forward and verified me right at the point in my career when I was ready to throw in the towel. I was tired of my friends being killed. I was tired of being treated as a joke. I was tired of being entertainment. Oh, it's that crazy lady that's so much fun to listen to. You know, I was done.
Mm, mm.
And she came forward, and we had several interviews, and she verified that I was telling the truth relative to the report that she uploaded, which is, she wasn't out there, so this is what she knew. And it wears on you after a while to have everybody tell you you're crazy.
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
And
I'm
having
lucky.
having that external validation
Mm.
did help. Did help a lot. So I can at least tell them, well, I've been verified by a government agent, have you?
Exactly. For me, it's like being invited to Space Command, but also I've had so many friends along the way have witnessed so much with me that
Yeah,
that helps as well, because they're very psychic as well. So it's like I'm very, very fortunate and so very grateful to have such wonderful friends around me that stuck by me when their lives were at risk
yeah,
and still stick by me,
mhm,
and I just, it's just,
yeah. The more what we would call paranormal aspects, because they did leave me with psi abilities. Um, I've been fortunate that my partner, the Iroquois shaman, the rest of us know him as Lou. uh, he has witnessed most of them with me. So it helps that your partner is supportive and sees this stuff, and I don't feel as alone that way.
that's good. That really helps. I mean, I've got, as I said, I've got friends around, so I'm lucky in that respect. Of course, I lost my husband,
Oh
uh,
no.
suicided, but you know, that in a way triggered me having a suicide program myself, and then Simon Parks and others helping me with the mind control. So it
Yeah.
was in a way a catalyst as well.
Yeah, the suicide programming, people don't understand how intrusive and overpowering that can be. Um, I've tended to call it omega programming, because that's kind of what it is. But at the same time, it doesn't give the full impact to the audience of you actually have a program running through your head telling you to kill yourself because you remembered something. And it's powerful. And there have been lots of times that I have white knuckled it just to keep from killing myself. And there have been times that I have frustrated Lou to the point where he said, well, fine, do whatever the fuck you want. And he's walked out, and he has this route that he takes. It's about 10-mile circuit. And he came back and he was like, oh, you beat it this time. Good. It's just, I really feel sorry for the people that are living alone
Oh God, I do.
because,
I mean, I know people who are right now. They're living in things like camper vans and traveling all the time because they're so heavily targeted. I've had so much support that I'm in one place and I can, well, cross fingers, I can out. There's aspects that I've had help from higher dimensions. I can counteract it, but I've had
good,
help from other people to help me connect to that. So
yeah,
um, so I'm very fortunate like that.
yeah. Uh, yeah, one of my friends, they called it a suicide, but he was shot with a shotgun and he didn't own one.
Well, that's your typical.
Yeah,
So many times they say that, and it's pretty obvious.
yeah,
It is, you know.
yeah. So that was really hard to deal with. Was the man didn't own a gun, and yet he was shot with a shotgun. And makes you wonder sometimes what these people really think that humans are going to accept as the truth. And then I listen to some of the things people tell me. Oh, yesterday, yeah, it was yesterday. I put up a album of different kinds of reptilian photos because I've interacted with more than one species of them. And so I did, most of them were art, drawings people had done. I'd found them online and said, okay, this is this kind of species. This is another kind of species. This is another kind of species. We have people out there right now who think that 15-foot tall alpha draconians are the same thing as football-sized sea car.
Yeah, I have actually mentioned that, and I don't always mention it enough, the fact that some of the reptilians are benevolent. It depends.
Yeah.
There's so many different, like you're saying, there's good and bad in everything, every types of species, but yeah, we're fine, you know, some are no.
So, yeah, the particular person that's out there shouting that from the treetops is claiming that Draco are raping humans, and they're three times as tall as we are. How are they sexually compatible?
Yes, they would kill you, but there's an
and when she's referring to this activity, she's saying the word Siakar, but the Siakar is the size of a football field, and the penis would be taller than I am. So how is this animal going to rape me?
Well, it depends how
I mean,
if they can energetic. A lot of this is energetic rape, so it's like
the beings that I interact with are 3D physical. They're just as real as we are.
Yeah, well, it depends. Yeah, there's so many different types. Is what I mean.
And this is why it baffles me, is because the beings I interact with are 3D physical. They're just as real as bears or lions or tigers or us. And I keep being told, well, you know, and I'm like, you're imagining it. Many of these people are I hate to insult them, but it feels to me like sex fantasies gone wild.
No, I do believe it's some thought. Now, some say that if a Draco or some other the negative or some of the negative reptilians die, they can actually create almost like a lower force, almost like ghostly demonic entity that can rape. So,
well, that's not the same as. Yeah. I've seen the reptilians in 4D, which is the land of the dead, and yeah, those things are energy feeders.
Yeah, but
that's not the same thing as the 3D real.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Beings that are on Mars or here. Or
I've been raped by reptilians. Now, it wasn't a 3D, as you say. If it had been a 3D one, I wouldn't be here. I'd be ripped apart.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't. It was like this energetic one. So I do understand what it is, but it's not. If you know, like black magicians, right? And I know this anyway. Black magicians can rape as well. They use an energy form that it's like more than a remote view, right?
Well, they're using their light body.
Yeah, they're using their light body. Yeah. So there's that aspect as well. And I know with me, when I was trained as a beta sex slave and all that, it was more the other aspect, the Delta Black Widow. I could actually use.
I've got. I think from the report I read, I've got 5 of the Deltas, and they are all in use by the CIA. So yeah, but they pull me in my physical form and use me. Even as 65 years old and fat and all that, they are still using me as a Delta. Now, for the audience, a Delta is an assassin. And when it's women, they use your sexuality as the gateway into being able to kill someone.
They do. You're right.
So this is how we are set up to do it, is we seduce them and kill them. And I've been piggybacking the altar that did it, so I can see everything that's being done in my body, but I have no ability to change what's happening.
I've had that, but since I've been with the Alliance, all that stopped, but I did break free of the other one. Well, whether they would have got me back if the Alliance hadn't intervened, I don't know. But
the only one that takes me anymore is the Germans. And the Germans are coming and getting me directly. It's nobody else in between anymore. I'm not serving the Draco. I'm serving with the Germans. And they rescued me when the Anunnaki kidnapped me. The Anunnaki planned to kill me. They said I was an abomination. And so they were in the process of killing me when the Germans showed up and rescued my ass. And they told me on my way back here, they said, you are too important to us. We will never let you go. If you die on Earth, we will time travel to just before your death. We will take you and regenerate you, and you will live with us on Mars. They thought they were reassuring me. What I heard was there will be no escape, none. So I'm not sure they understood that's what I thought. They were trying to tell me, don't worry, be happy. And what do? Oh my God, I'm trapped. So, yeah.
Well, more or less, unless you're very, very...
yeah, I think all of us are trapped.
Unless you reach a certain level when you die, you're not going to escape this particular matrix yet. So we're still...
Well, I'm here as a prisoner, and I really think all of my time in space has been enough punishment, and that I should be allowed to escape at the end of this incarnation, if it ever ends. If it ever ends. So yeah, although I've had other beings, a fire elemental for one, tell me your presence is required. I'm like, what? What? What am I doing that matters? Apparently something. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different beings that I'm starting to interact with now. Some of them are Fey-like beings, but there's all different shapes, sizes. So in a way, they're more interdimensional beings or extra dimensional. I never know if you...
Yeah, these are interdimensional beings. Although I talked about it in a prior interview with Joseph Powell. I think the last one we did, I talked about, because of something he did, I was captured by Alliance, and I was kept in a psi cage, and I was in a straitjacket. And there was a man who his altar on Earth is public, so I'm not going to name him. But he was beating me regularly, torturing me, trying to force me to defect. And I didn't. And this interdimensional being came, and she melted the psi cage and cut the straps on the back of the straitjacket. And I don't know what he perceived it as. At this point, I don't care. But I was rescued by a interdimensional being. And I don't even know what her name is. She says, "Call me Mama." So,
Yeah.
and she said she would always be there to rescue me. So I'm hoping she's a good one, because she's going to be there whether she is or not.
Yeah.
So, that's something people assume you have control over who's in your life. You really don't.
Not really, no. To a lot of extent, don't know.
I don't have any control over whether or not these guys come to see me or not. I do put up shielding, and that slows them down. But there are even humans who have walked through my shielding astrally. Just walked in, acted like they owned the joint. One of them. Now these are usually Illuminati level people.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you don't automatically trust someone who can walk in through your shields. But this one guy came in, and I was really sick at the time, and he comes in, and I have guards, and he looks around and he yells at me, and he yelled for being sick, and he yells at them and says, well, it had to do with the project I was working on at the time. He says, "You've got the most important woman in the universe right here, and you're letting her die." And he was livid. And no, I do not believe I am the most important person in the universe. But this is what came out of his mouth. And my guards hugged him. Group hug. "Okay, you're here. You fix her." That was mind-boggling. Because my guards are Canaans who resemble Anubis. They are orcs. They are Draco royal guards. These are who hang out and guard me. And you don't think of those beings in terms of hugging a human that showed up and started yelling at them. So yeah, this was mind-boggling. But yeah, he's been popping in and out when he's in the mood. But it's not like I go pop in on him. But yeah, when folks like that show up, there's not a whole lot you can do about it, because I put my best stuff into my shielding, and if they can walk through that, there's nothing I can do to stop them.
Well, I think most of the time I managed to shield against those, but certain others, I'm still a work in progress. Some of the demonics that have been sent at me, I've had to get assistance from friends to get rid of. I remember I was on Zoom with a friend, and behind me, this dark shadow started to creep in. You could see it, and I had a mirror behind me, and the mirror was like, you could see the mirror started to go jet black as it moved across.
Oh, wow.
Physically see it, and she was like, and I was like, because I could see in the thing, I thought, oh shit. Yeah, I know what's coming. I could feel, I could sense the darkness. This was a nasty bugger, and we had to call in others to help with that, because we did recitations, various things. It started to drift back, right? As soon as we started to drift back again. I thought, this is a nasty one. This is really difficult to get rid of. So that was the worst one I'd done, because it really did take some shifting. So yeah, there's different levels or different types.
What I have found is that the people that I'm working with, because I used to do counseling, and I would do it where, I would do it in Messenger and on screen where we could see each other. And so the people that I've worked with over the years, I've seen some really nasty stuff come through. And I can't always remove it. And, you don't know how powerful you are until you're interacting with other beings, what you can and cannot get rid of.
Yeah.
So some of these folks that are like, well, I can get rid of that. Maybe not. So I don't think I'm the best there is. I certainly don't think I'm the most important anything. But that's what came out of his mouth. So at the time I was dying. And it turned out to be pernicious anemia.
Right.
Which is a family disease.
And it runs. My grandma had it. And it's not too bad, but it does run in my family too. So.
Well, I'm going to lay odds that we're related then.
Surprise me, actually, Penny. Somehow that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, my family, as far as I can track it, are from Britain and Scotland, and further back they're from Ireland and Norway.
Right. Yeah, I've got Scottish, and I've got obviously English, and I've got some sort of background, and also I've got a feeling the sort of bloodlines we won't talk about may be exactly the same ones. So it's like, I'll say exactly the same ones.
I'm not going to name names. I'll put it that way.
No,
not on air. No, I'm not going to name names. This does go with descendants of Robert the Bruce, but I'm not going to say on air which family line. So, but yeah, I'm one of those people.
What have I got right now?
You've got the solar cross too.
Yeah, I have.
The more Celtic version.
Yeah.
Yeah, same family. So yes. We have I just blanked. We have about 15 minutes left.
Right, okay.
And between 10 and 15 minutes before we have to go off air, because there is a show after ours. And if there's anything you want to plug, now would be the time.
Well, at the moment, not really.
So you don't have a YouTube or a book or any of that?
I don't have a book. I do have a YouTube, so I could actually probably I will guide people to that, because sorry, I just forget about these. I never actually did YouTube. I did 3 little videos on my YouTube. Hated it so much I didn't do ones after that. But just recently,
for me, it was YouTube sent me a notification that if I did not start uploading content, I was going to lose the channel.
Oh.
So
well, they didn't get
I started interviewing my friends.
Yeah. Well, with me, because Miles Johnston from the Basis Project, his YouTube was taken down, and he was targeted, and he's at the moment accused of a crime which I know is fake, because I went down to assist him. And when I was down there, they tried to take him out with a form of an electronic sort of thing. But I managed to intervene at the time. But what we're doing now, because he hasn't got that channel, I've copied a lot of his hard drives, because the police might come and raid and take them anytime. And I'm starting, with this permission, I'm starting to put them on my channel. Plus I'm doing reviews on them as well and things like that. And I'll do updates now. I wasn't really doing a lot before at all. But he has some phenomenal interviews, even going back in time, because
I know his work with Max Spears was excellent. His work with Robert Duncan was excellent, and he was the first one who brought out Vela Cruz, Harold
yeah.
Vela Cruz, and he was one of the first to interview you. So.
Yes, exactly. And I get on with him, you know, because we just have that sense of humor between us. So I get his dry sense of humor. Not Kerry doesn't get it, but I do. And he's like American.
Kerry didn't like me, but that's okay. Not everyone does.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't think Kerry will probably invite me. She looks very keen on me, but I don't know why. But,
well, she ended up deleting my interview.
Oh dear.
So it's okay.
You can't please everybody. And you just stand in your truth, and that's all you can do. So
I stood in my truth, and I made the mistake of getting into her head. So I was hearing all the nasty things she was thinking about me, and I ended up blowing up at her. So I make an effort to stay out of people's heads, but I was so nervous that day that it happened anyway. So
I can do that sometimes, and I can get really bad on it. I mean, I've had to tone it down. It got to a point where it's so many. I can't stand cities because of that. I can pick up so many different flaming thoughts. It's like, no, turn them off. Turn them off.
It's like when I don't have it turned off. I live in an apartment complex.
Oh my God.
8 apartments. And I get the sound of the woman across catty-cornered complaining about that it's her time of the month, and the man across from her is thinking about how much he has to go to the bathroom, and the kid next door is watching porn, and you know, I really don't need that in my head.
Exactly.
And people think their thoughts are wonderful, and that you know, you're going to get all their deepest secrets. You don't. You get what they're thinking at the moment, like what's at the very surface. And most people are thinking about sex, bathroom, or food.
Yeah.
You know, that's what most people think about. I'd say 90% of the time is one of those 3 things. And I don't want to hear that.
Exactly. So if your shields go down a bit sometimes, you're like, oh my God, where's the shield? I want to put the shield back.
Exactly. So, you know, for all of you guys out there, that's what people think about. Sex, bathroom, and food.
Or like passing comments. You can pass them and you can hear them do passing comments about other people, you know, and all sorts of things. It's like, oh God.
They're judgmental too. It's like, well, isn't she full of herself today? Or you know, variations of that. And I'm like, you know, you don't even know that person. And I have to remember to not say that out loud, because they have the presumption of privacy in their own head.
Yes, unfortunately.
And it's just like, oh my God.
Luckily, I'm pretty good at keeping quiet about that. Definitely. I'm just like thinking, oh my God, I need to put the shields up.
Make sure you give me the link to your YouTube where you're putting this up, and I'll make sure it's every place that we have the interview.
Okay, brilliant.
So people can find you, because you're worth hearing.
Thank you.
So I'm going to say I recently had enough donations to get a server. And I did this on purpose to archive the SSP and Super Soldier videos that are currently in the process of being deleted by YouTube.
Well, you
So,
found the one I thought was deleted. I thought the one with James Rink had done with me was deleted because it was no longer on YouTube. I didn't realize it was on Rumble now.
yeah, he's moved to Rumble. So he's taking his stuff there. And so in the process of this, there are 4 or 5 sites that people are using. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have my server as a place to store this stuff.
Yeah.
So at least until my death, it will be online. And because bandwidth is not free, I will have to have a small charge to cover the bandwidth. But, you know, I'm hoping that I can keep it under $5 for a year's membership just to pay the bandwidth. So I'm not doing any of this to get rich. I don't think you are either. My whole thing is the information needs to be out there, and the people who need to hear it most are living on $1,000 a month or less.
Oh God, yeah. So many targeted people with no money. They have
so many homeless, so many with no money, so many in shared housing because they can't afford to pay rent. And it's so much of our work has been put behind a paywall, and I understand that it takes time and energy, and they need to make a living, and coming out public makes it where that you can't get a regular job. No, you're that crazy nut that believes you were at Mars. Yeah. So but yeah, I got donations to buy the server, so this was not something I had to come up with the money out of my Social Security. So it should be on air live somewhere around the first of the year. I'm having to learn how to run the software is what's taking so long.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah. I've been developing a website, so it's like, oh my goodness, trying to work that one out is difficult.
Well, I did an internship with a website company several years back. So, and I was a computer programmer back in the 70s. So I'm taking I guess they call me a power user. I'm taking that background and studying Microsoft Server so that I can run the thing without having
the rules, though, you know, Penny. Here, one of the latest bills that's going through Parliament is they're attacking all servers, all of them, foreign or domestic. If it passes through Parliament, we're not going to have an internet. Literally, some of us are looking at alternative ways of communicating because there's no way we can get anything out. If that bill passes, that'll be it. And they're literally talking about £14 million charges on people.
What?
For just broadcasting anything that they don't deem that they will pass. It can be anything. So
it's a major censorship bill.
Absolute call of any censorship that, you know, if it's you know, anything else. It
would be applying to us.
Yeah, it would apply to
Global Enlightenment Radio because we have our own server.
Yeah, it literally.
I should say, Daryl Odin has our own server. So, yes.
No, it's not. It's only a draft reading yet, but they're just here.
You guys need to do something about that one.
No, we're working on that one.
Good.
Tomorrow, actually, in a few hours. Tomorrow, I'm going to get up early because I'm going on a common law course. about sovereignty in that. So it's about learning the law, going back to Magna Carta. And I'm going to talk as well about the Charter of the Forest, which I saw in the same room as the Magna Carta. Nobody ever talks about that because the Charter of the Forest has a lot more rights for the everyday person.
Yes, it does.
Never ever mention it on anything. It's always the Magna Carta and say no.
Well, I live in California, and we have actually a law on the books that said that California does not go by English common law. So we only go by our own laws here. So you cannot come in and use Black's Common Law Dictionary to apply for sovereignty here. So, yeah. All you conservatives out there who think I'm just totally liberal, I did 5 years with the sovereigns until they told me that because my great-grandmother was Cherokee, that I am a prisoner of war and that none of this applied to me. And I told these racist SOBs to go F themselves.
Well, here there's something called, I think it's eminent domain. And it means that we, as British people, do not have power over any, we don't own anything.
That's basic. We have that here too.
Hey, Penny, y'all got me going wild over here. I'm sitting here like, oh my God. All right, listen, I'm right here. Look, this is too good. This is too good of a show. Like I said, I definitely want a part 2, but you know, really, can I do the question I want to ask so bad?
Yeah. Or ask. Julie. We have 10 minutes before Ramona's on.
Okay, Julie. You know, you're my friend, you're my girl. You know, I think you're coolish. You know, cool as a mother. I'd like to offer you a show on the network. All right, you can continue talking to Penny. I'm getting all nervous. I just said it. I mean, look, we need the British SSP side as well. I mean, this is too good, Penny. This is information that the world needs to hear.
Julie, you should have seen Daryl when I told him I was going to have you on. He was just really excited.
I'm like, I know this girl. She's the bomb.
And that's pretty much how he started off, and he went like that for a good hour.
Oh, Daryl, that's lovely.
I mean, you just think, listen, you're awesome. Your information is just like Penny's. Real, true. You got, look, I got a perfect idea. Yes, public, I'm doing this out loud because I normally do it behind the scenes. But you know something, Penny, if it's okay with you, honestly, I would love to have a show with her do her own show and talk about it from the British standpoint. This SSP stuff is real, and these people need to learn that the projects that the CIA, OSS, Montauk, whoever you want to call them, the child trafficking, the all these ideologies and isms, and plus the space program is real, and they don't believe it because they don't have the goddamn common sense to want to see beyond their own doors. And that's why I've asked her. Okay, back to you, Penny. I said it quickly, didn't I?
You okay now? Yeah, if you want to show this is a good network. So there are other networks that charge you hundreds of dollars per show, and we don't have that here. There are certain expenses that we pitch in on, but I'm only paying for $40 a month to be on air. And
I just,
in radio, that's cheap.
Yeah.
So Vinny Eastwood, when he was on, he was being charged $200 a show.
Oh my God.
Studio fee. Janet Lesson was being charged that, and that's why you've got people charging guests to be on. is because they're being charged studio fees, and we're not dealing with any of that bullshit.
Hell
No.
to the hell no. And you know something? I love the British because of one reason. And I'm going to tell you the truth. Because if you're not proper, you're full of shit. I love that statement.
Well, then I'm in trouble because I cuss like a sailor.
Well, you guess what? You know, we're American Navy. We can curse like sailors. I'm sorry. Yeah, we got people here that curse like sailors. We don't care. This is our server. We don't care. We broadcast everywhere. Oh, by the way, Penny, I got a message from from Facebook, from a Kwok Hok Pong, whatever the name is. You know, it's Korean. Pong, Pok, whatever. And they try to say the music is yours.
Totally blown the name.
Yeah, I totally
right.
blew the damn name.
Apologies to whoever it is that your name has been butchered.
No, I butchered it.
Question.
I'm butchering it because you know something. The SOB had the nerve to say the music that you have, it belongs to someone else.
It does. It belongs to Kevin Estrella of Pyramids on Mars.
But not Kwok Pok Punk Pang Pong Bang. Hold on.
Kevin Estrella of Pyramids on Mars wrote that song, performed it with his band, and dedicated it to me. And the video that we play at the beginning of the show, the band made for me.
So it ain't no Kwok Pok Pong or nobody else's music. Facebook, and whoever you are that wanted to send that little thing to disturb Penny, troll, I call you out, and you think Odin is gone? Y'all don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I haven't had a good drink in a long time, and this sabbatical is about to go over. Thank you very much.
Odin is Daryl's altar, and Odin likes to drink, and Odin likes to smite. And Odin likes certain individuals, and anyone who attacks them will be smited. And
I'm coming!
There was someone who decided to attack one of my regular guests on my Facebook wall yesterday, and I'm waiting for Odin to zap this person. So I will leave it completely up to Odin what he decides to do about it.
Oh my God, you made me feel free again. Don't worry, I got a bottle of tequila this time. Sunrise, baby, sunrise. Hey, Penny, it's showtime. It's over. I just had to make that statement out there. And Kwok Pok Pang Pong, whatever the fuck your goddamn name is, I'm coming after you. And, yeah. And Penny, you gave me some information, so I got to go after that person too. You know, I haven't done this in so long.
We took screenshots. My long-term guest and I both took screenshots, and then I deleted all the crap and blocked him. But we kept the proof for you.
Yeah, I'm ready. All right, Penny, gotta end it because you know Ramona wants to talk about the cowboy era tonight. Oh.
Well, the next show is Ramona Speaks the Other Truth, and she's got a good show going.
Oh yeah, she's upped herself. I'm proud of her. Even though she thinks that every time I'm talking about her, but I'm not. But that's okay. Let's get Ramona into the studio and let her have some fun too. You know what I mean? Here we go.
Okay.
Right.
So,
Thank you for the show. Thank you for inviting me.
And Julie, I will be in contact with you. Yeah, that's right, girl.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
And we are clear, everybody. We are clear for sailing on the USS Penny, and we have now popped the cork and